Hi everyone. Today we have another interview lined up with Yogesh, who has 5+ years of experience in the DevOps and cloud space. And we will ask him bunch of simple, difficult, all kind of questions, few scenario-based questions so that he's prepared for it. You guys can also learn from this experience. And towards the end, we will try to give a feedback, which I believe will be useful for Yogesh as well as for everyone else who is preparing for similar roles. So Yogesh, before we get into the discussion, can you brief a little bit about yourself? What sort of experience you bring? What sort of tools, technologies you have been working on recently? And based on that, we can take it from there.
Sure. My name is Yogi Swami, and I was a senior system engineer with Oracle Cerner. My overall experience is 8+ years in the domain. So we support Cerner Millennium application, which is an electronic health management record. That is basically supported by you in the EU region. So we handle critical care applications, and we actually follow agile methodology. So we track projects through Jira, and then if any known issues with productions are tracked by remedy tickets. So that is one thing. And when it comes to configuration management tools, we pretty much know configure with we use Terraform, Brainboard with Terraform. So there are templates that we actually apply and provide configure infrastructure. And and my role was I was a deployment engineer. Anything new releases happen, any domain has to be built out, or anything that comes up. If there's any client requirement, their doctors or nurses require a new domain for playing up into their training environment, we go ahead and build it. And if there's any packages that's coming out that has to be implemented for the enhancement or the betterment of the application, so I go ahead and implement that packages as well. So that's a basic role in and out, maintaining the application.
So is it a hands-on role that you are playing, or is it sort of people management involved in that?
It was a hands-on role, and also it is spread across different teams. So applications has various other applications integrated, and we had to work with other teams as well. So everything I own the infrastructure as per particular clients. Now whatever changes that happens on that thing, I'm responsible for it. At the same time, there's some of the features that's not working or something that's not processing on the application. That's when I reach out to other teams, involve them, and make sure that's getting going.
Awesome.
So my job is to make sure that domains are up and running, and make sure that there's no.
And when you say domains, what exactly you mean? Is it the application?
Yeah, the application. So we have production, non-production, development domains. So production environment is the main hospital that is hosted on. And when it comes to the non-production domain, it is the testing phase. The development domain is where we develop the application. So so anything that starts us with the development, I go ahead and implement, and I work closely with the
And these
developers.
domains are public facing, like people interacting
Yes.
with patients as well
Yeah.
from their home and all booking appointments,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So basically, now it is one sign-on. As soon as they go into any hospital, they just give their social security number or their details, and they should be able to get all the information, and it's acrossly spread to the hospital, and everything can be handled on their mobile apps, even from doctors.
Okay. So very
So
domain
that's
focused as well, right? Healthcare and
yeah,
so
yeah.
are you looking for next sort of job in this similar domain, or you are like if a banking industry job or something is there, you open for that kind of
I'm
position as well?
I'm pretty much open to anything now. I just want to learn and just now
Right.
pick up my skills, build
Yeah.
my skills about
And what sort
year
of
and a half.
certifications have you gained over these years?
Yeah, I have gained Red Hat Linux 7, Linux administrator from
Good.
Red Hat, and I have completed AWS Developer Certified uh, in my previous organization.
Okay, awesome.
Because so that was the closest one that I could do, but pretty much what I've learned there, to be frank, and the
Okay.
real environment, what I'm doing is completely different there. So you could pass the exam, but until and unless you get hands-on
You
on
get hands
everything
on
what
to
you
that.
studied, Yeah, that's very
And
limited.
when it
That's
comes
what I
to
felt.
cloud platform, you are more AWS, like the entire
Yeah.
enterprise on the AWS. All right.
Yeah, so we had on-prem. There are certain clients which is on-prem. We had our own DCs, which is in Kansas City, and it was across UK as well. So
Okay, let's
UK,
start the
Australia.
discussion. I got the idea. It's a
Okay.
on-prem AWS in a healthcare
Yeah,
domain, which
yeah,
gives me an idea that it's regulated and your data
yeah.
protection and
HIPAA.
all that compliance comes into picture. So all sort of such scenarios are applicable in your job profile. So
Yeah.
let's talk about some basic questions like how would you investigate if you find like today morning you came into office, you found that the app is down or one of the domain is down. How would you
Okay.
investigate that? Is it runs
Uh,
on an EC2 instance or
uh, it runs on Linux EC2 instance,
okay.
and we had basically the AMIs, custom AMIs now, which is bundled, which we just have to go ahead and launch it, and that is hosted on
So how would you
uh, uh,
investigate if you find that specific website or application is not working?
First thing, I would go to the URL and they see that what is the error code now. If there's something related to the page not working or any HTTP error codes like no what is it? 5404 or 403 or 400, anything with that request, I would just go see. The first thing I would go is check the EC2 instance
Mhm.
because our front-end application is hosted on the Windows. There are Citrix boxes
Okay.
which users actually face. So most of the times now the Citrix boxes would have gone down or
Mhm.
it could have hung when the patching was taking place when it is rebooted. So when it tries to reboot, the machine is in hung state and the application, that's where it does not work. So I quickly hop on, see the logs, what has happened. I see the console. If it is now down, I just go quickly reboot it and bring it back up. And I will also see the root cause, why that was happened, why this went to reboot. If it
Mhm.
is a regular maintenance or was there any patching done recently, security patches were applied. So that is my first step. After it has come back, if it's coming back up working good, yeah, I would go ahead and do my
So
basic
you found
testings.
out that this is not the front end, this is the back end
Mhm.
system that's not working well.
Mhm.
What would be your next step then?
Yeah, exactly. So now we have a set of commands. Now, when our environment, I would go through the now codes. Now, there's something services that's been running from our end. We have the Millennium services, as in the application services running on our end. So we have our own queries, custom queries written. So I will just go ahead and know. First thing I would go is no, is the services up and running behind, or are they down, and why was it down? And if it is down, then I will go bring it up. I'll go ahead and bring them back up. So before going ahead and bringing them up, I'll just go to the logs and see what was the reason, who brought it down, or
Mhm.
was this after was there any maintenance on the happened on the system and they forgot to bring
So
back the
you found
services.
out
This
that the problem with the server was that uh, the CPU requirement of that machine were high at that point in time and it crashed. So what would be your
okay.
suggestion in that case?
CPU utilization was high. Okay, if the CPU utilization was high, definitely know that there were we have the CC users count of the application usage was expected more than what we organized.
Mhm.
And if it is in the production environment, we use the customized auto scaling groups that
Okay.
kicks in and that pick up the application. So each client has the set of users we can expect. It's over the period of time we
Mhm.
monitor, and that's how we set it. Then I go back and see the monitoring tools, what caused the issue and when it got spiked up and what was the reason behind it. So I would go accordingly, troubleshoot accordingly. And then if it is the requirement for now, I will make sure that if it's a production domain, I will quickly get back the domains up and then go back to my root cause analysis and I'll go back to the relevant teams and saying that, hey, this is what it is happening. And then I would go ahead and bring in a plan to betterize this because any upcoming forecast that is coming. So let us know that we will have we will make sure that the infrastructure is ready so that this cannot happen.
Okay.
So that's how I will document it.
Okay. You talked about in your environment, you have a requirement that there are on-prem servers as well as there are AWS servers. So how does it work?
Yeah.
If you can explain me a little bit. For example, I'm hosting a website in AWS How
Yeah.
is that going to be accessible from my on-prem environment? So for example, my website is www.yahoo.com hosted in AWS. I
Okay.
want that application to be available only to my on-prem users, not to the public. Only my on-prem users should be able to browse www.yahoo.com and they should be able to access it.
Okay. So only the on-prem.
Yep.
So we have we have set of application, that that is hosted on cloud and on-prem. So we have a specific URL that was designed to only access those applications on the cloud or on the on-prem. So I could go ahead and first ask them as know what URLs that they're using, because there are different URLs that we give to the
No, but how
users.
does this
Uh,
technology works? I
uh,
in your company, things would have been set up already for you, but how does this
yeah.
everything works? I
Okay.
want to host something in cloud, give my on-prem the access. How does that work?
Okay. First thing is now we set up the application now on the EC2 instance. Now the images, whatever the of the customized image that we would have brought up.
Yeah.
So we build up the EC2 instance from the scratch. We take an image, we take an organization image from a secure thing. We put this back up and make sure that configure it according to the client specific as to what all application they have signed up for, what it is. And we make we get the infrastructure ready as an application, front end, back end,
It's
and the
all ready in
database.
AWS, all good. How will
All
you
good.
make sure that
So
only my on-prem customers are able to access it?
uh, I create policies. We have this custom policies that know where we can go ahead and now apply these roles and create those roles for those users and the IAM.
Okay.
So that that IMA role is actually a template that we have as in what are the configurers, who are the users that's going to be accessed. We have a list of users. So we go ahead and give permissions to those users to get
But my
access to
users
the
are not
cloud.
AWS users. My users are using yahoo.com and that's where they do some work. They are not AWS users.
Okay.
You getting?
So yeah, I'm getting now. So okay, if the users, I got it. So they're not the AWS users, they're just the general users, and
Yeah.
they're trying to access.
One of your
Uh,
private website or one of your private hosted. Leave it. Let's flip the question. You have something
okay,
hosted on-prem.
okay,
How would you enable your AWS users to access it? And this time also the users are, uh, they are probably maybe a website which is hosted in AWS, but its database is on-prem.
okay. So that's a trick. No,
The
Sanjeev, I'm
basic
not able to know
question,
relate it.
or for example, let's make it easy. You have a environment where
Mm,
your database is hosted in Azure or some other cloud platform. You have been told that use this application, deploy this front end and back end in AWS and connect to Microsoft Azure. How would you go about that across cloud kind of thing?
cloud across cloud kind of things. So the configuration part would be, the networking part. That what we do is we actually connect their we use VPCs to connect,
Mm-hmm.
and the VPC, as in we use the DNS, the gateways accordingly. We configure according it. So when this comes into picture, so I would be work closely with the networking team to get this rolled out. So when I've not deployed an application on cloud actually,
Okay,
no,
no worries.
because
That's fine. Now let's come back. I got the idea. You need to study a little bit about on-prem to cloud,
mhm.
cloud to on-prem kind of scenarios, networking scenarios. You don't have to know everything,
Okay,
at least an
okay,
overview of these things, how the
okay,
domain name are going to be addressed in such scenarios. So
okay,
those scenarios. Then second is how you gonna work maybe across different cloud platforms if needed and what
okay,
sort of advantage and disadvantages you have. For example, you can host a RDS in Azure and have the app
okay.
in AWS. How will you securely connect to it? So there are two ways you can go over the public internet. And if the company wants that it should be encrypted, it should be secured, then you have to look at some VPN or some other arrangements.
Okay.
All
So
right.
I'll have to brush up on AWS.
Okay. How do
Okay.
you access an S3 bucket securely from a VPC without going to the internet?
Secure S3.
So I have a private EC2 instance. You said three-tier architecture, right? I have a private EC2
Yeah.
instance. It wants to access S3 bucket, but doesn't want to go over the internet. Do you understand that use case?
Y- Yeah, yeah. So I can relate one of those things. So we have those data recovery boxes on the client side. We
Mhm.
use the Bastion host to now to the SSH. We log into one of the application servers,
Yeah.
and we have that a NAT open to that particular box from the client and for us, and so we connect to the database. And whatever changes, they are
Mhm.
completely disconnected from the internet.
Right.
So whatever changes, whatever things that we want, we will just log into that box. We use the Bastion host kind of a
Correct.
connectivity.
That's logging on to
And
that
then,
server. That's a different scenario. Now this
okay,
server has an application running which connects to an S3 bucket to say get some images or get some logo of your company and that sort of thing. S3 bucket has a unique name, right? Like globally accessible unique name. You can always
uh,
connect to it but that traffic goes over the internet.
S3. I could recall.
No worries. So because your experience is 8+ years, in your resume you mentioned 5+, but you said
Yeah.
8+. So you will be expected a bit of architect level questions or slightly senior, especially you are in the compliance industry, right? So a lot of time in the compliance healthcare, and they will have this focus that not everything should be going over the internet. It should be encrypted. How
Okay.
much AWS backbone we can use private network of AWS rather than going over the internet. So that would be more
Okay.
secure. All right.
Okay.
Do you understand AWS well-architected framework?
Well, acted. No, I have a sound knowledge on it.
Yeah, yeah, whatever
So
you are aware of.
so well architected, as in uh well architected.
What does AWS
Hmm.
recommends to its users that how AWS should be used? How did you come up with a three-tier architecture? Somebody would have told the architects or company that three-tier architecture is a good practice. Have public private subnets and secure your so anything which you can relate, you have studied. So
Uh,
architected framework in short is some sort of best practices that AWS recommends its users to follow. It's not mandatory, but
okay.
your application will be better suited. It would be secure, cost optimized, and well operationally if you follow these good practices. So, for example, you are
Uh,
using AMI. Now, AMI is not something that's must for every company, but it's a good practice. So that falls in well architected framework.
okay.
All right.
So, okay. Yeah, I could relate now.
Yeah, no worries. You can work on that. Uh, so have you worked on any environment like you have multiple AWS accounts or you are working in a single, how is your AWS account strategy?
It's a multiple. Each user has their own accounts. As in, we logged in. We get our we have a custom URL that's built in for our thing for each project, each domains,
Each
each
user or
clients.
each project?
Each project has their own this thing.
Okay.
Their URL published. So we logged into that,
Mhm.
and then we have
Who
a
manages
centralized
these
credential.
multiple accounts and is it your responsibility or?
Uh, this is handled by the security team, and there's separate IAM, the identity access management team, who
Mhm.
builds out these
What
roles.
would be your responsibility in this multi-account setup?
Deploying applications, for example, we get a request. No, there's the developer has saying of kind of a support role,
So
saying
a
that no, this
developer
package
comes to
has.
you. Let's take a scenario. A dev team comes to you and says, my application
Mm,
is a microservices application. Uh,
okay.
I'm hosting some microservices in AWS Cloud. what sort of
Okay.
platform would you suggest them? Like what can they go with? Or do they already know where they are going to host?
Yeah, they know everything. They
So when
actually
would
give
you
us a
suggest
document.
that go with ECS or EKS?
Alexa, ECS. Okay, the container services and the given UKS.
But
It
see,
is
but
when you can
but
pack.
they do the similar thing, right? They host
Yeah,
containers and
yeah. So uh, that is when you can cut short the application to smaller piece. Now, when they are building, usually now this situation come across now when they're using the old on-prem infrastructure when all the applications are hosted on the virtualization box and they wanted to know get it going faster. That's when the container services comes in. So I could suggest that no, why don't we use this technology so that it can be faster
which
and
one?
this
Which technology? That is my question.
uh, uh, for containers for Kubernetes services.
Yeah. So you
One of the containers,
because
Docker
in
and
your
Kubernetes
resume you have
services.
mentioned ECS
Yeah,
multiple times. So like how would you decide this application should be hosted on ECS, EKS? Is there any sort of guidelines you are aware of?
no, those are all documented now. Those are all pre-built templates now
Does your role
that's available.
requires you to consult because you are going to deploy the applications?
Yeah,
Do you also select these target platforms for application teams, or like they decide themselves, they have the knowledge and
yeah, they have decided everything and they just give the work plan and we just go ahead and deploy it in that way.
okay.
So that's where I'm lacking now. That's where I'm a little confused now. I had to go through a lot of I know that no, I had to do a lot of hands-on projects
Mhm.
and to well understand of how these things work.
Right.
So I'm a little confused now. Where to start now? Whichever JD that I see now, it's been asked for Terraform and Ansible and CI/CD pipelines. So
Yeah, those
I
are the
could
things we need to work
yeah
on.
okay, I could not now relate to it. Then if I see that it's a huge list now,
Yeah.
when
Especially
when
at
you're
your
trying to know.
experience. If you were like 1 or 2 years, then I can suggest get a
Yeah,
basic overview of some of the things and maybe have the breadth of the knowledge that so many tools. But in your
yeah,
case, not only the breadth has to be this, your depth also has to be higher. Like you have to understand them in detail as well.
okay,
So just an overview is not sufficient at your level. So, but the good
okay.
thing is that since you have been working in production, you have some sort of experience deploying in
Okay.
production, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
But your uh, some of the things you have been doing like a part of the overall activity. You
Yeah,
haven't been
that's
doing an
correct.
end-to-end sort of thing where you are talking to an application team, making some recommendations that no, this is not suitable platform for you, why you are complicating your life. I would
Yeah.
suggest a better approach, or the application is frequently going down. Let's use auto-scaling group with these configurations. Or your application is going down frequently. Let's use this monitoring tool in place, or something like that. So those sort of consulting and scenarios probably you have not worked. You
Yeah.
are guided based on a strong dev team, based on a
Yeah.
strong networking team. So you are shielded by
Yeah.
those scenarios. You are working in isolation in a
Exactly.
small subset.
Yeah,
That is
all
the
subsets.
biggest
So,
challenge. So I would say highly recommend the
uh,
scenarios. Now you document these requirements, make 2 or 3 complex projects for yourself. It could be on-prem
okay.
to cloud connectivity. It could be hosting multiple applications onto EKS or ECS, Fargate containers, or whatever scenarios you want to make the life complex. Add additional scenarios. For example, add a scenario that you want to monitor the application using, say, App Dynamics or Sumo Logic. Monitoring side is covered. You want to build a
Okay.
dashboard for your applications that you will be hosting 5-10 applications. A dashboard should be there which tells the health of the application. Make it complex that your database, your application is in a different AWS account. Make it more
Okay.
complex that the applications you are going to host has to have some sort of auto scaling policies. So you will start with, say,
Okay.
T2 medium or T2 very nano kind of instances, and you will do a stress testing on that. So in that
Okay.
stress testing phase, you will
Okay.
make sure that your instances are going through CPU and RAM spike, and does your auto scaling works. So testing
Okay.
that sort of scenarios. So
Okay.
uh, making sure that you are hosting applications in private subnets in a ECS or EKS the containers and the clusters, and you then try to put in egress, ingress controllers through load balancers, and then those sort of scenarios that your public facing load balancers are in public subnets, and your EC2 instances are private.
Okay. Okay. I got it. So, Sanjay, I make a note of all of them. So
Look
I,
at some of the other services, especially at your level, services like
okay.
Trusted Advisor, well-architected framework. Look at Control Tower, which is a multi-account strategy,
Oh yeah. Okay.
in our organization, because you're at the company, somebody else is managing it. You need to understand these. These three services will give you some good practices that AWS recommends for its users.
Okay.
And then you can talk about it in your interviews, in your discussions, that these are the services I'm aware of. Within these services, you don't have to
Okay.
master the services. You have to master the some of the things that it recommends. So, for example,
Okay.
in these services, one of the rule will be that EC2 instance should not have a public IP address unless it's required, or your bucket
Okay.
should be encrypted. Those sort of things you have to capture, because those are good strategies, good practices suggested by AWS. You have to remember some of
Okay.
those scenarios, and then when you are writing your project specifications, then you add these additional things, that I will make sure my instances does not have public IP address. I will make sure that the
Yeah.
buckets are encrypted. So those sort of things, your AMIs that you are creating have to be custom AMIs. I'm not sure you're using
Okay.
automation for that. So AMIs should be built using some sort of automation. It could be
Okay.
Ansible driven, it could be Packer, or it could be AWS AMI builder, or whatever automation you can use. So at least pick one of such scenarios.
Okay. 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 Fine, Sanjay. Sanjay, now in rather to know pick up the projects, right? So I did see in the URL that you had some kind of projects now that is there. So do
I
you think
use
that
this
if I
same strategy. Like when I'm building projects, my aim is that people should learn something from when they build these projects. They should learn
okay.
certain concepts. So with that in
Okay.
mind, I have done that sort of activity. I have released 3 projects on my like I do it privately. So you can explore those projects if you want to, but it's not mandatory.
Okay.
You have experience, you can build your own as well. You can spend some time,
Okay.
build your projects, make it complex. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, so no, if I enroll to those projects now, so if I have any confusions, if I have any questions, is there any support group that I can reach on?
Yeah, so in my projects, when you sign up, you get access to WhatsApp group where people who join those projects live, and people who have gone through the recordings and built those projects, so they are available, so they can share their GitHub repositories, and you can then learn from that as well. So that's also there.
Okay, so now the projects that you're building right now require some cost things on the AWS. So any
Not
platform that
Not extensive, no. You have to build it in your accounts, but
okay,
some of the projects, again, we usually keep it very low. Some of them may fall into free tier also, but not every project can be built in free tier. So
yeah,
you go beyond,
absolutely
so
understood.
$5-10 or $5 to $10 at the max you can encounter, but
Okay.
it's worth. So
Okay. Okay. So I had a three-tier. I was just going through the three-tier projects now that you have 3 projects that you mentioned. So do you think if I can pick up those and probably, gain some exposure on doing these
yeah, so I would
things should
suggest
make
you go with those projects, or you build your own projects. You highlight some of your past experience as you have been handling end to end. It will be challenging. It will take some time also, that you have
Mhm.
been doing all these activities that are described in those projects yourself, not just doing the deployment of applications. You have been doing
Okay.
following
Okay.
best practices. You have been making recommendations to the team. You highlight
Okay.
that before you joining this organization, the things were working, but they were not following good practices. And you brought in a lot
Okay.
of good practices in the company. That's how you have to build a story.
Okay.
That would be better. And then obviously your own experience should always be counted. You have to go with that, but make sure that you highlight that that some of the issues that you found in the organization, you consulted, you spoke to different stakeholders and made certain recommendations that you will learn in the projects. And then those projects help the organization achieve certain results. It could be better compliance, faster go to market, or those sort of things, benefits. You have to explain them.
Okay, fine. Got it, Sanjay. So I will just go through those projects now. If in case if I want to connect back to you, for any other sessions like this, now how can I reach in
My
future?
mock interviews are anyway like quite cheap. So I would suggest you need some time. For you to be ready
Okay.
for next interview, you need at least 3 months of time. So in those 3 months,
Okay.
with 2-3 projects at least. I would say 3
Okay.
projects at least. And then when you're
Okay.
ready with your extra learnings, then we can meet up again for similar sort of session.
Okay. So my time frame would be 3 months to pick up all the skills and then
3 months,
probably.
good hands-on, complex
Okay.
projects should be your target. You don't need to go back
Okay.
and start learning AWS theories and DevOps theory, and all those things. You lack
Yeah.
building end-to-end projects. You lack
Okay.
a bit of hands-on and that sort of thing. So once you do that, I think you should be there.
Okay, fine, Sanjeev. So I got a fair idea. So I'll pick up this projects and try building one. I have actually enrolled to one of the projects. I was a little confused now how to build those. Now I have a fair knowledge of it. Then I'll pick up the third one. The first one, which the DevOps 3, I mean, not DevOps 3, I think so. Project 3 of the
Project
AWS
3 is
Tower
my
one is the,
multi-account, multi-environment sort of deployment. Project
yeah,
1 was how to automate the AMIs and how to secure the infrastructure and then deploy an application on that. And project 2
okay.
was around Kubernetes deployment with ops and stuff like that.
So if I could now pick up, do I
Any
pick up
lot
the
of
third? I
marketing
wanted,
about my courses, but you can build your own as well.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because no, I need some kind of a guidance because no, this is really complicated for me. No, if I had some guidance, no, I can definitely. That's why I'm like
Start
actually
with
looking
that.
at those projects.
Start with that and look
Yeah.
for some certifications as well at your level, maybe a Terraform certification, something on
Okay.
Kubernetes certification can go. Even
Okay.
your AWS cert is quite like a associate level, so you can go with some professional level certification as well.
Okay. Fine. Sure. Sure, Sanjay. I will just make a note of it and I will reach out to you in case anything. So
Sure.
this link will be open, right, for in future.
Yeah, everything is
If in case.
open. We are available to help in any of your requirements, so this should be available.
Okay, fine, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
And
Thank you. Best of
I'll
luck.
see you soon.
Yeah, see
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.